First up in the second half, we have Joseph Ahorro, known as G.A. Joe, and he's going to talk on U2, Adventures in General Admissions.
Dream out loud. That's what I've been doing while seeing the band U2 on their latest all-stadium tour. And I only started listening to their music a little over 10 years ago, and I was certainly drawn to their spiritual and their political messages. And I'd probably consider myself a slightly above-average diehard fan. On the last tour, I had gone off to see 33 concerts, most of the time front row center. Overall, I've been to 55 shows in 30 different cities, 13 different countries, and on 4 different continents. I could have seen more, but I didn't want to be too excessive. I believe in moderation, even moderation. So now, general admission, also known as the GA, is standing room only on the floor, which usually fits about 10 to 30,000 people depending on the venue. And since the GA is first come, first serve, there's this incentive to line up really early to make sure that you're as close as possible to the front. Now, diehards like myself would often camp out because of this fact. And through my experiences, I'd created a GA guide on my website. And I talked about things like when to line up, urban camping, and how to get to the front. And about 250,000 people have visited my site since I created it a couple of years ago. And because of my guide, I was pretty well known as G.A. Joe on the tour. Now, something I noticed was that when you travel to different parts of the world, places like Europe, North America, and Australia, diehards will start lining up the early morning of or the day before the show, usually using tents or sleeping bags. I've used garbage bags just because they're easier to carry around. But when you make it down to Latin America, it's an entirely different world where people there would line up a week to 10 days in advance. And there's things you could do to occupy yourself when you're waiting for 12 to 170 hours. You could play board games, you could have cookouts and barbecues, you could learn new languages. Since I've been traveling on my own on these tours, it's an easy way to meet people in the queue from different parts of the world, quite literally. And one thing I've noticed is that there's this really interesting subculture in the GA. I call us GA gypsies, wanderlusts, people who love to travel the world, go to multiple shows, and inherently trust each other because we're fellow U2 fans. And there have been countless times where I've been offered free concert tickets, food, accommodation, travel from fellow GA gypsies. But the hours leading up to the show, everyone's nervous, and I've never seen so many grown adults reduce themselves to ruthless, animalistic behavior. People yelling, crying, accusing others of cutting in line, being territorial. It's not very pretty. And all of a sudden, when the gates open up, it's a lot like the running of the bulls. And I remember when I was in Milan, Italy, at the San Siro, I was nearly pushed down the stairs and trampled. It was utterly mental. And I remember security would tell us to stop or slow down, and all I hear is run faster. And when security is trying to stop us, I would use people in front of me as blockers to avoid security from capturing me. Actually, that was one of my favorite parts of the GA. It was kind of like a sport. But once you get to the front, you're reunited with all of your friends. And these are the people that you want to see the concerts with because you spend so much time with them in the queue. And quite amazingly, there's quite a lot of room at the front. You could swing your arms, dance. You could hug each other when your favorite song is being played. You can say hi to the band. You can get guitar picks. One thing I loved was being able to see multiple opening acts that were phenomenal. Acts like Arcade Fire, Elbow, Jay-Z, Muse, Snow Patrol, and Black Eyed Peas. And after they were done performing, we always had a feeling that tonight was gonna be a good night. And I also love the cross-cultural experience of going to multiple shows. I remember waiting for the band to come up on stage in Mexico City. And on the PA system, they started playing the famous mariachi song, Cielito Lindo. And it was amazing to hear 111,000 people chant, ay, 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 canta y no llores, porque cantando se alegran, Cielito Lindo los corazones. And later during the show, it was amazing to see all of Aztec Stadium bounce up and down at Sing at Lung-Bursting Volume 2, where the streets have no name. It was simply stunning. And further south in Sao Paulo, U2 was able to create intimacy on a grand scale. And the fans there are just out of this world. And they invited well-known Brazilian samba singer Seu Jorge to do a cover of Kraftwerk's The Model. And almost instinctively, 98,000 Brazilians, 4 internationals, and 1 Canadian knew exactly when to sing along. She's a model and she's looking good. Da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da. I'd like to take her home, it's understood. Da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da. And it was so easy to be swept away and memorized by that sultry South American crowd. But my most outstanding memory out of the entire tour was making it to Poland. And a few days before the show, I was in Gdansk, going to the shipyards where the Solidarity movement had organized and eventually toppled the communist regime in the late 80s. And during the show, when Adam's bass started to pulsate at the beginning of New Year's Day, a song inspired by the Solidarity movement, all of a sudden the floor turned into an ocean of red and the seats into a seas of white. And Bono and the crowd began to chant their song, "All is quiet on New Year's Day, a world in red gets underway." And as I was singing along, I realized that everyone around me are the beneficiaries of the Solidarity movement. And they were there singing their hearts out because of their freedom. I want to be with you night and day. Nothing changes on New Year's Day. It was such a cathartic moment to be with those whose parents had sacrificed and fought for their independence over 20 years ago. But I've often said that if my journey was like a movie, that the concerts themselves would simply be the end credits. That the storyline, the narrative, it's all about the journey. It's about the friends that we've made and the experiences that we shared in the GA. And I've been so lucky to be able to live a dream. And maybe we could draw some inspiration from the protagonist in U2's majestic song, Zeropa. She's going to dream up the world she wants to live in. She's going to dream out loud. She's going to dream up the world she wants to live in. She's going to dream out loud. She's going to dream up the world she wants to live in. She's going to dream out loud. Dream out loud, everyone. Thank you. Obrigado. Grazie mille. Boa noche.
Thank you.